Hello, folks, and welcome to Author Adjacent, a show about the journey from hobbyist writer to professional author. I'm your host, Michael Vadney, and today I'm sitting here with Dyrk Ashton, author of the Paternus Trilogy. Welcome to the show, Dyrk.
Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you could make it. I reached out to you, and you were very receptive to it, which honestly surprised me a little bit, and I'm super excited for this interview. I've been thinking about it for a while.
I always enjoy them.
Excellent. So the first question I want to ask then is the first question I always ask is, how did you get to where you are today? Like, what is your author origin story?
Oh boy.
Yeah, I know you got a long career of a lot of different things. So I was very curious
Yeah.
how that eventually became author.
Well, I can go back and fill in. I was in LA and I was writing screenplays and doing stuff like that. I was there for about 6 years. I came back and got my degree, my PhD in cinema studies so I could teach. And I still do that all online now. But in 2010, I quit the full-time tenure track gig to teach all online. And that opened up time to read again. And I hadn't been able to read anything but school books and research and resources for scholarly academic writing and student stuff, teaching stuff. So I dove back in and was trying to find out what kind of stuff people were reading and jumped back in and actually read Harry Potter for the first time. I was reading Game of Thrones and the first Law trilogy, Joe Abercrombie, Anthony Ryan's first book, which actually was self-pubbed when it first came out, and I had always wanted to write a novel. I tried to write one when I was a kid in high school, and it was terrible. It was all, of course, handwritten.
I think a lot of us have done that in high school.
And then I'd always been a writer because I was doing a lot of screenwriting, though nothing ever really. I got really close with a lot of things, but nothing ever took off. I never got actually paid for any screenwriting work. I did write a lot of prose as a kid, just for fun, short stories and all kinds. And I had this file of ideas of things, and I realized, oh, hey, wait a minute, I actually have time if I want to. I can do my day job work and start poking around with this writing thing. So I had these like half a dozen crazy ideas, and I thought, maybe I can combine those all into one. And just, took 6, 8 months just to kind of figure out what it would be and kind of teach myself, go through a crash course, home taught MFA or writing, reading a lot of books, watching some podcasts, but mostly I decided I was going to break all the rules anyway.
And you
Which,
certainly do.
yeah, pretty much all of them, I think. Uh, and but that was on purpose because that's what I always wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do, and I was doing it just for me. I had no idea. I mean, I just didn't really care if it ever got put out there.
Mhm.
The first, the whole first book, and it was 2 books that got combined into 1 book and then cut down and rewritten and rewritten. And I'm still to this day a rewriter. I'm not a good writer. I'm a fairly good rewriter, but it takes a few rewrites to get
Yeah.
there. And then I thought, there's this self-publishing thing that I had seen around. And I knew no one, absolutely no one. I had no Twitter presence. I had a Facebook page, but never looked at it. And that was it.
Mhm.
That's all I had. I mean, I had a MySpace, that's how
I
long we're
remember
going back.
that.
When I was in LA in the 90s and came back in 2000. I knew nothing. I didn't even know what Reddit was, Reddit Fantasy. I'd never heard of Reddit at all, let alone Reddit Fantasy. Before my first book came out, I went to the Confusion. Was a close con. It's only an hour drive up. I was driving up and coming back every day, and I started meeting some people who I had met on Twitter, and I knew like 4 people, you know, and 2 of them were actually there at that con. And I was like, and but they were the only people I knew. And I met Steve Drew, who started Reddit Fantasy. And after a couple of conversations, he was like, you haven't published anything, but your background is really interesting with the acting and the filmmaking and the and I wrote my dissertation was on the Lord of the Rings
Oh, nice.
movie,
Solid pick.
movies. So he was like, you would probably be a pretty interesting guest. So that's how I got interested or got introduced to Reddit Fantasy and the community a little bit more. And I was always looking around on, and Twitter, and I'm just trying to follow authors, people that I'd
Yeah.
read if I could find them. I was following them, Facebook, and they were it at the time. And there was no threads or blue butterfly or whatever it's called. And
Yeah. I had to think about that for a second.
blue sky. Uh, I was always jealous. I was like, oh man, I hope one day I can like chat back and forth like these guys are doing, these people are doing. And then I just kept going to conferences, honestly. That year, I went to Confusion, the SFWA. This was 2016. SFWA annual conference, WorldCon, and World Fantasy. I went to all of those. I haven't been back to World Fantasy since, and I'd like to. But, only a couple cons, and Dragon Con and WorldCon are so much fun. I went to a lot of cons for a long time, but so I started meeting more people, and now here I am for some years now. I am just chatting with all these people. I talked to a bunch of people and did a lot of research, and having have worked in the film businesses, which is extremely similar to publishing, um, with agents and pitching and deals and contracts and all that kind of stuff. So I had done all that on the film side, and they were convinced, well, you break a lot of the rules here, which is really a lot of we think is a lot of the charm of it, and we know you just want to do the book you want to do, so just self pub. They said, because trad, if you go to trad, if somebody picks it up, they'll make you change a lot of it. They'll get rid of any of the switching of POVs, the omniscient point of view. To make me get rid of that, they'd make me get rid of the present tense. Even though books were doing extremely well, they were YA.
Yeah. Y is big for present tense.
So, but I really liked that immediacy because I was reading like the Hunger Games and some other things that I thought were just that the immediacy of present tense, and all screenplays are written present tense. If you've never read one or aren't familiar with it, all of them are. Because it's happening on the screen right now. There is no past tense. And it was fun to be able to, jump inside of heads because you can't do that in screenplays either. You can't have, and then he thought, boy, what is this guy talking about? You can't write that. You have to write their physical reaction, right? So I decided to self-pub. And since I had produced a lot of stuff, commercials, low budget film, features, industrial films, a spec pilot for TV, and production managed, I know all about how to work with artists and schedule stuff and figure and handle production steps. It's really a piece of cake, books compared to film. I mean, it's still a lot. It's still a lot, but it's compared to film, it's very simple. So I did that, and then I saw on Reddit that they were interviewing the people who had won the first SPFBO. Um, so I was like, oh, I think I'll enter this. You know, I had no idea who any of those people were. I entered, I think it was the next year. I entered in 2016. So I think that was just the second year that they did it. And somehow, because it goes on for so long, you can get a lot out of it. I got in a good group, was a finalist, and ended up placing third. And that's how I met a lot of my best friends. I met during that time that are still friends to this day. And we have a Slack writers group that still has a core of people that were all involved in that. We've added some people and some have gone away since then. But like, originally Josiah Bancroft was in there, Jonathan French was in there, Mike Fletcher was in there for a while. Fletcher we just had to kick out because he's just obnoxious. So I hope he watches this.
You've been warned, Mike.
No, we didn't kick him out. He got really busy and had other things he needed to deal with. So,
Yeah,
but
I've heard that the SPFBO, once you get into that, like the semifinals or the finals, there's just that inner circle that you guys form, and
yeah,
it
and
ends up
well,
becoming a boon for like relationships and
it's
connecting.
just yeah, you can't. I I to this day call Mark Lawrence the arch saint of self-pub authors because if it wasn't for SPFBO, I am absolutely convinced no one would ever have heard of Paternus.
Wow.
Just it just wouldn't have happened. Just
Oh yeah.
absolutely would not. It wasn't one of those that you throw on there and suddenly it's making a lot of money, and that does happen.
No, I
It's
agree. Mark is great. I hope to
yeah.
get him on the show someday so I can like talk to him about how that all
No,
started.
you should just ask him.
Be-
He's doing them now. He didn't do them for a long time,
oh, okay.
but he is doing
I
them
will
now.
reach out and see what
All he
happens.
can do is say no. So I did that, and then it was all SPFBO, and then once I started to talk to people, they taught me the ins and outs of how to deal with Amazon ads and some things like that. So I started getting into that, and then produced my own audiobooks because I wanted that kind of control plus a larger percentage. And at that time, Podium and Audible Studios and those places really weren't a big thing, so you weren't getting these deals. I'm really glad I did because the audiobooks have done very well for me, especially the trilogy one.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's how I consumed the Paternus trilogy.
it's huge. It's unbelievable how big it is. That's basically it. That's kind of how it happened. I really never expected anybody to read it. I'm still nervous and surprised when I hear on social media that somebody's reading it like you. Um,
Yeah, I've definitely been blowing it up of late. Partially because
thank
like
you.
I knew we were gonna have this conversation again. Super happy
Yeah.
to have you here. But two, I was also just really caught off guard by it. Someone on X suggested it to me. I don't even remember the conversation that it came up in, and I was like, all right, yeah, I'll cool, I'll check it out because I've been getting more into urban fantasy. I had done the first book of like the Iron Druid Chronicles, and I had done a little bit of Shami, her time traveling warlock story. I'm like, all right, I'm getting more into urban fantasy. Not normally my thing, but I've been liking it a lot lately. So let's give it a go. And I started with the first book of Paternus, and I was really impressed.
Well, thanks.
The rule breaking really surprised me.
It takes
I
yeah.
still don't understand how it works, but it does. Because like you do a lot
Every
of
one of
head
those
hopping.
all that weirdness was done on purpose. Some of it comes from screenwriting. A lot of it does, and the rest of it comes from books that I've read that do those kinds of things.
Yeah,
Roger Zelazny was a huge influence on me. His books are weird, and he breaks every rule.
nice.
If you ever get a chance, have you read Lord of Light or Creatures of Light and Darkness?
I don't
Or
think I have, but I'm adding it.
what is it? Once Upon a Lonesome October. They're just his stuff is just brilliant. Um,
No, I'll
so
definitely have to check those out.
big fan of his work. Um, Big fan of Philip Pullman, um, who did his Dark Materials. Yeah,
I
the
have heard of
Golden
that one.
the
Yeah,
Golden Compass.
yeah.
Um, he it's funny. He's a brilliant writer and he knows all the rules, but he does some really fun things that in his prose that most I mean, I'm sure a lot of readers just don't pick up on, but since I was like kind of studying that stuff at that time,
Mm.
I was like, wow, this is so much fun.
It's really fun to see how the sausage is made when it comes to books, and then that's when you really start to understand. Like, yes, these rules exist; they are important. We should learn them, but they every single one of them can be broken if you succeed. If you do it right, you can break them all.
Yeah. And it was funny because one of the judges in the group that had Paternus in SPFBO actually posted a thing right after the entry. Mine they took 300, but it took several
Hmm.
days for it. Then today it fills up in an hour or
Oh
less.
yeah, it's so fast.
Um, and it took several days, but I was still like 298 out of 300 because I had to get my book up. So I was hurrying to get it up on, and it was only a few days after it was on Amazon
Yeah,
that I mean, soon as it appeared and I knew it was there, I hurried in and submitted and made it. Um,
got
but
in by the
yeah,
skin of
it's
your teeth.
yeah, absolutely.
But did they have something particular to say about?
Oh yeah. He wrote this thing about info dumps and
Mm.
how terrible they are, and I go, okay, well, I'm fucked. Sorry, are we allowed to curse?
Yeah, you can curse. It's
Okay,
fine.
okay. I should have asked that early on, but
No big deal.
uh,
Most of the time, I'm speaking like a pirate. I inherited it from my mother.
okay,
It's a very normal thing. I'm
yeah.
cleaning it up right now, but it's okay.
I was like pristine, pure as the virgin snow until I did podcasts with Mike Fletcher and Rob Hayes, and they just ruined me. Um,
That's what good friends are for, is to ruin
yes,
you.
yes, no. And if you believe that, um, I've got some land in Florida, but apparently I did it well enough because I do have a lot of info dumps, and I didn't give a shit. And I actually read a lot about it. And Stephen King was funny. He's like, "Don't do info dumps, but sometimes you have to. And if you have to, do them early on. Get it out." So I'm like, okay. Uh, as long as you got to try to get a hook, a couple of hooks actually. One isn't going to do it. A couple of hooks in before you start going into backstories and stuff like that. But apparently it
Yeah.
works. It works for enough people. Some people hate the books. I've heard
Well, you
people,
can't write to everybody. Not
yeah,
everybody
no, and
enjoys
I
everything.
don't care to. And having been an actor, you know, for a while and doing auditions, you get a really thick skin working in the
Oh, I
film
bet.
business. So it just doesn't bother me. Um,
Yeah. Well, like you
and
were saying, when you first started writing this, you at first it was mostly for yourself. You didn't even know it was
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
be
Well, and
seeing the light of day.
it still was even through the third book. It was still for myself. Though I did start to do a few different things that I had gotten out of my system in book one. So I just
Hmm.
kind of went with some more traditional stuff, but I still do all the head hopping in its present tense. And I mean, they call it head hopping, which until the 70s was the standard.
Yeah.
That's the way books were written. They
Yeah.
were always doing that all the time. So it's only in the 70s and 80s that that the um, tight third person, um, was
Yeah.
came into vogue. So it's something that is kind of natural to me,
Hmm.
and it's like it's a book. Why should I limit myself?
And like what you were saying earlier is like the massive advantage of books is you get headspace. No other medium of storytelling gives you headspace. Like movies and TV, I feel like their greatest advantage is music. Is they can use music to set a tone, and I wish there was something equivalent to that in stories because I've thought about that a lot and I cannot think of one.
Well, tone and voice.
That's as close as
Um,
you get.
voice
Yeah.
voice is as close as you can get, I think. And voice is tough, and I'm not talking about just the voice of in the dialogue, though that's part of it. It's if I am focusing for the most part in a chapter or a section on what this one character is doing and thinking, the prose itself has to change a little too. Um, and I've brought this up before, but if you want to look at voice, Mike Carey, M.R. Carey is one of the absolute masters. Take a note. Um, the he does it in all his books, but The Girl with All the Gifts, the chapters are from different characters' points of view, and the prose changes just slightly because he's in the head of a little girl. He's in the head of a teacher. He's in the head of a soldier, right? And they think differently. And their reactions to things in their thoughts are different. And how those things are worded can create that tone, that vibe that you may not even notice, but just try to pay attention to
Yeah.
that. And The Girl with All the Gifts, he's just so good at it.
No, I think you're right. Like that is the same thing with like music and film. It's like you don't always notice the music, but you always feel the feeling that the music gives you. And that's what voice
Yep.
does in
Yep.
stories. I'm definitely gonna have to check out Carrie because what
Yeah.
you're describing, I've heard about it before. I haven't
Mhm.
really heard a lot of check this person out for a great example for it. So I'm
Check
definitely gonna
that.
be looking
Well,
at
it's
that.
also a great book. I mean, really
Oh,
great book. And the
that's
and the
awesome.
follow up, The Boy on the Bridge.
Hmm.
Mike's one of my favorite authors. He's also one of my favorite people.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
he was the very first person to blurb Paternus, and that was only because somebody who had posted that they were. This is many years ago. 20 late 20, yeah, probably late 2016 is about when Girl with All the Gifts was out and was like a big seller. Big and and I was following him, and someone had posted and tagged him and said that they were going to go to a signing, and I was like, I am so jealous. And like that night or the next morning, I got a message um, on I got a message on Twitter from M.R. Carey, and I'm like, what? And he said, "Hey, Dirk, thanks. I'm really glad you liked the book." And apparently, I had a link to the review that I put up on Goodreads, and uh, and he said, "Hey, um, how would you like to have a signed copy?" He was just going to send me one, and
That's so cool.
he was a big comic book writer. Do you know
Hmm.
that?
I
Yeah.
did not know that.
No, he was a huge comic. He worked on Constantine. He worked on a bunch of the
Oh,
Sandman
nice.
stuff. He worked on Marvel. He's done tons of comics, and Girl with All the Gifts was his second um, try into writing books. He did the Felix
Hmm.
Castor series, which is marvelous, by the way, urban fantasy. Um,
Right. Adding it to
and
the
but they
list.
never
It's
really took
growing.
off. Some people know about them, and they have a fan base that they so when he put out Girl with All the Gifts, which is an entirely different thing, he
Hmm.
it was M.R. Carey. They changed the name, so it's a really interesting story. But of course, that took off, and he's been doing fantastically since. And they
Good
even
for him.
made that movie, Girl with All the Gifts. They actually made it into a movie.
Oh, I didn't
Um,
know that.
yeah, yeah. It's not a huge budget film, but it's good. And he uh, so we I said, "Oh, I just wrote this book, Paternus. I'd be happy to trade you." And said, "Yeah, that book trades are great." So I sent it to him, and like I always do, I never bother him after that. At never, other than to thank him that I got the book when it arrived, and I have this signed copy of, to me from Mike Carey, that he just sent me, and and then like a month later, he's like posting that he read Paternus and really liked it, and sent me the thing and said that he was, thought it was pretty great. And I asked him, Would you possibly give me a blurb?" He's like, "Sure." So I'm like hurrying up and changing my cover file, and put that up there. And that went up before the SPFBO was over.
Oh,
That
perfect.
version with his blurb at the top. I've since changed the cover entirely, but he's still his blurb's still on there. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I think I've seen pictures of what I didn't know it was an old cover, but did you
Yeah.
change the cover of Paternus at one point?
Yeah.
I believe you had like a Kickstarter or something that happened with that, right?
Yeah, well, no, the Kickstarter came quite a bit later,
Oh,
but,
okay.
enough people and I started to agree that the first cover looked a little, Hardy Boys.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Hardy Boys meets Harry Potter or something like that, and
Not really the vibe you're going
Paternus
for.
really isn't that, so
No.
yeah, this is a copy of the original cover, and it's the only one I have left, and there are only a
Oh,
couple
wow.
hundred of these in existence, actually.
Oh, wow.
So
That is very different vibe.
yeah, very, very different vibe. Sorry for the
Wow.
sorry
Is
for the
that Fee,
reflection.
Zeke, and Peter?
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
Yep. And, even though and a lot of people still love the art, but this really says Paternus so much better.
Yeah, it really like
Yeah.
the scope
Yeah.
is better
Yeah.
conveyed
As
through
and,
on that
the
cover.
professional typography that Sean King did for me I just lucked out and got John Anthony DiGiovanni, to do the artwork for all 3 books, but he's big time doing Subterranean Press books and stuff like that now, so I can't afford him, but which is good. I love to see artists. He was very early. This was only the second cover he ever did. The first one he did was for Ghosts of Tomorrow for Mike Fletcher, and the only reason he did that was because they're related. They're like distant cousins. Yeah, the people that are shitty that put down other authors, or you know, it's just it doesn't help. It doesn't help you. Sorry, a rising tide lifts all ships. It really does. It really does. And a lot of people were screaming and crying when Brandon Sanderson came in to do Kickstarter. They're like, oh, he's going to take it over. He's doing a Kickstarter. This has been like the indie space, and but the you know hundreds of thousands of people that he brought to Kickstarter, most of them had never heard of it. So those people are still around today backing indie projects. Yeah, now they've changed some things, but we're still not so sure it's great. So we're kinda hoping Brandon jumps back in and says, "What are you guys really doing? This isn't really what we talked about." So, we'll see. They've changed some things. We're still trying to figure out if it's good or not. Now, I'm not, I it doesn't affect me where I am, with the Paternus Trilogy, so, um, yeah. Yeah, yeah, the people that are more concerned are the ones who are with, po like the podium. Yeah, going through ACX is what I did, so I'm good. I don't have any issues so far. They haven't tried to put me into any of these weird things, the new things they're doing yet, so we'll see. But anyway, we'll see how that all all shakes out. Hopefully for the better. No, there was that thing in high school and a couple of short stories, just handwritten stuff, um, and I never did finish that first novel. That was, mostly an exercise. Um, and but yeah, these are the first books I've written and finished. So yeah, I don't have trunk novels, you know. I don't have a box of manuscripts under the desk. This was it. But you know, I was in my 50s when I wrote and published this already, and I'd been, around for a while and working in film and writing in film and had, you know, some life experience and I think that helped a lot that I was able to. But again, like I said, the first drafts were, and it took a lot of rewriting, and I had some notes from some friends, but I didn't have an editor or anything until I got somebody to do some editing and proofing. Um, most of which I said, nope, I'm not going to make it past tense. Nope, I'm not going to stop doing the omniscient. Yeah. Though Dale Triplett, who did the first book and ended up doing all three, um, he and Laura Hughes did books two and three, but he alone did the first book. And I mean, he helped a lot. He added a lot that was really, really, really helped. That's the hard part too, because you can really twist your head around pretty badly on yourself, um, if you have a hard time deciding what to keep and what not to. The best thing for me, and I think for a lot of people, is that I go through the notes and grumble and moan and set it aside and think about it for a few days, and then I go back and start addressing the actual changes. And it's like, "Okay, I guess I see." I still don't. Um, yeah, I mean, they I mean, you can ask a lot pe I asked, I have a lot of friends that have written, 25, 30 books or more, and they still suffer from imposter syndrome, you know? But even when somebody asks what I do and I say I'm an author, I still feel weird saying it. Then they say, "Well, what kind of books?" Fantasy." And they get that look on their face. Yeah, I go, like the Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, that. Oh, oh. Or they freak out, because that's exactly what they read. People don't do a lot of research, so they don't know what they're up against as far as what they might have to do with advertising, and that's changed. I mean, it changes so much. And it's so expensive to do it. I mean, you used to be able to run Amazon ads that actually would sell books, and you could make money spending $10 or $15 a day, you know. And now it's not possible, really. It's, or you can even force a really good launch just with advertising spend, and now you'd have to spend an absolute fortune um, to make that happen. 500, 600, or more dollars a day. It's yeah, and still might not work. My advice would be just read up everything about self-pub. You don't have to learn it all, but at least so you know what's coming. You know what you're getting yourself into. Because self-publishing, if you're going to do it right, is like starting your own business. I mean, it's like if you rent a shop and say, I'm going to make cookies, and you got to buy all the stuff and hire people and sell the stuff and keep all the books and do some advertising and all that. You do all that with self-pub too. Well, the Kraken Rider Z trilogy that I'm doing now, I'm working on the third book, is with small press, Wraithmarked Creative, which is Bryce O'Connor, pretty much, but there's a big crew that he has working for him now. And I actually work for him. I do the print coordinating for their Kickstarter books. I deal with all the printing stuff. And they offered me a deal and said David Estes wants to co-write with you. He acts more like a senior editor than an actual co-writer, but he's sold like 1,000 times more books than I have, so he has a much bigger name. So they put a bigger name, and it's funny because most people, David Estes, who's that? Well, he wrote the Fate Mark series, and I mean these books. I mean, look at how many ratings they have, you know. And he's on the third series, and they're all 5 books, I think. Big books, like 300,000 words. And so, and he has a newsletter and he has a big following. So, but doesn't have a big social media presence, doesn't go to cons, nothing like that. So, a lot of people just don't know who he is, but he sells a lot of books. He sells a lot more books than a lot of trad pub authors do. Yeah, he and Wraithmark had worked together before, on a couple other things. He's doing a series with Bengali. He's finishing that one up right now, a trilogy. And David was like, "I'd really like to work on this with you." We had been goofing around in our Slack group, and Bryce is in there and David's in there, and talking about everything that's popular, the new things like progression fantasy, lit RPG, and then all the stuff that still works, farm boy fantasy, dragon riders, military school, military magic schools, um, um, what else was there? It was a whole litany, and I was like, "Screw it! I'm going to write a military magic dragon rider school, uh, farm boy makes good, um, progression fantasy." But I'm going to call it. I'm going to have my main character write a Kraken, and I'll call it Kraken Rider Z, just riffing on some animes. And and then they contacted me. So we know you're probably not interested, but boy, we'd really like you to do this. So I got a fantastic deal on it, much better than I would have got on a trad. So it's been a blast. It's been a blast to write. It's very different from Paternus, but it's been a lot of fun. Lot of fun to do. So that is with the publisher, and they negotiated and got a six-figure deal for the audiobook rights through Audible Studios, based on, I think 2 chapters. Um, I think that's all there was, which was nice. And yeah, the back end and the uh, and the advance and everything were better than I would have gotten anywhere else. And just having some steady money is a neat thing. So I am on Twitter and Facebook. Okay, I'm on Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky as Undyrk, Undyrk. Um, I'm on Facebook as just Dyrk Ashton. Just find me. There is a Paternus Book Media page also, if you want to follow that. I'm on, I have a website called Paternus Books, or it's just paternusbooks.com. And I am currently working on the Kraken Rider Z military magic Dragon Rider school, except the main character rides a Kraken progression fantasy trilogy. First two books are out. First one's Kraken Rider Z. That and the audiobook are available. The ebook for book two, Thunder Kraken, is out, but the audiobook won't be coming until like November, I think. Um, Tim Gerard Reynolds, the narrator, was just unbookable. So it got pushed out, and we dare not. I will never allow the changing of narrators in the series. That's just an awful, awful idea. Terrible thing to do to people. That's like publishing the first book at 5 and a quarter by 8.5, and the second book at 6 by 9 in a series. That's just unforgivable. Unforgivable. Yeah. Um, um, so yeah, that's where to find me and the books. And Paternus is available on Amazon and through Ingram, so you can order it at bookstores and stuff like that. This is Michael Vadney, and this is the end of my podcast, which is awesome.